Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Alberico. I am the regional captain for the Mid-Atlantic region for the Broker Action Coalition, and I am very pleased to be joined by Christian Butterfield. He is one of our lender sponsors, and he is a leader over at Gold Star Mortgage. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Mike, how's it going? Hi to everybody that's taking some time out of the day to join us and talk a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Christian and I have gone around DC probably 4 or 5 years now. You've been there since the start, like I have, and we've built a good relationship. And he definitely is one of our biggest advocates in the industry. We're here to briefly talk about one of the biggest, in my opinions, missing pieces for the broker community, especially in my home state of North Carolina, and that is down payment assistance. And as most of you probably know, and if you don't, we'll just do a quick explanation. Most state down payment assistance programs are not available to mortgage brokers. And I've been fighting this battle for probably like 10 years or so. And I learn more and more each day. One of the biggest things that I'm learning along my way is it's not necessarily the agencies that are the barrier to entry. So in my state, it's North Carolina Housing Finance Administration, NCHFA. They don't mind brokers coming in and utilizing their product. I've met with them. Christian and his team have spoken with them. It's their servicer. So reason I bring that up is don't always beat up the wrong person, because there are barriers to entry, but you need to figure out who the gatekeeper is. And Christian, we'll just use NC for an example, because I know you and your team are in the thick of it right now. So what are you seeing from your side?
With North Carolina specifically, or just in general?
In general, and NC.
Yeah. I mean, I'll kind of generalize, and then I can specify towards North Carolina towards the end, right? So, in general, I will say a couple of things. I mean, as anybody that's been in this business for a while, right, and has dealt with HFA, right, which is Housing Finance Agency, state housing finance agencies, local HFAs, which is really anything that's government run using down payment assistance, right, kind of falls under the HFA umbrella. One thing that is probably familiar, it's always been a banking, right, and retail vehicle, right? And so naturally, because it's been that way for a long time, people have, people that administrate that and service that have, people, just like we don't like change, administrators don't like change either, right? And so, but change is necessary, right? And we're brokers, and we're in the broker channel for that reason, right? We're agents of change, of giving people choice, right, and all that, and because of that, the TPO shouldn't be penalized, right? Brokers shouldn't be penalized, and their consumers shouldn't be penalized for offering those products, right? And so, one thing I do want to say about, for those of you that are watching now and participate with the BAC and go to DC and talk to your federal legislators, down payment assistance from the federal level and from your state and local level look very different, right? And it's different issues. For example, in this specific issue of providing access to brokers at the HFA level, that's more of a state advocacy kind of push on my end, because, yes, there's federal dollars that go into the subsidies for HFAs, but they really don't direct how those funds are done. That's really more done at the state level, right? And where those decision makers, who their servicers are, like you mentioned, or investors, right, are. And so, for those of you that are interested in advocating for that change, right? I mean, and Mike knows this as a state captain, right, and part of his region, working at the state level to make that change. And I'm happy to be, I used to work in state politics prior to my mortgage career, as many of you probably know, because I love to talk about that. A lot of that happens in that space because it is something different, and there's that comfortability of, hey, this has been a banking resource or a retail resource for a long time. There's a hesitation to change, right? And the reality is there's a variety of reasons for that, right? HFAs don't want to deal with something new. They don't want to deal with, obviously, if you turn something on for TPO, there's maybe 10 retail lenders approved in a state that goes to hundreds of brokers overnight, right? And so there's ways to get around that. There's ways to minimize the impact, which is a lot of my conversations with those HFA agency directors in using the lenders to help you do that, right? And so I will tell you, every state is different. Every state, the conversation we have is different, right? Some pain points are different from others. And always, I come from a point of education when I talk to these HFAs. I mean, if we can become one of your partners in TPOing to the brokers in your state, that's fantastic. If not, I'm happy to be a resource, right? I did that. I've done that in several states where we don't get the chance to participate, at least not initially, but we do get a chance to help craft that message to the agency directors or whoever it is, right? And in North Carolina is an example of, I don't think it's a state they're just trying to be probably protective and make sure that whoever participates, has, the necessary requirements. And so they've added some requirements at the last minute that we didn't know, right? Which require more legal review and a bunch of other things. And we'll continue to work with them with that, right? But that we find that kind of normal with, when talking to an HFA, it's, an initial rollout, they say 30, 60 days, and then it becomes a 7-month ordeal, right? And so it's also government. That's how that can work, right? It's not their timing. It's not on your timing. It's on their timing. But I think it's worthwhile if at the end of the day, our goal is to be able to provide this to the consumers our brokers serve in those areas, right? That's the goal. And I think my conversation with the HFAs is always like adding brokers only increases that benefit, and it doesn't just increase it. It increases it exponentially from every state that we've participated in. It's amazing just how much more consumers just are, I wouldn't say affected, but are touched by the access to the product via the TPO channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And, brokers know, and if you're working with a reputable one, like I still refer these out because I don't have access to them. I have friends and colleagues in the area. A good broker is going to find the best option for the consumer. And a lot of it, when you talk about, I'm glad you brought up education. A lot of it is just education to the HFAs as well, because one, they're not very deep into the lending side of things, even though they are part of the lending platform. But a lot of them may not understand the difference between broker, non-del, correspondent, retail bank. And it's just something that you have to, if you're out in your individual states talking to these folks, whether it's your legislators, people at the HFAs, just educate them properly. They have to know where they're coming from, because one of the biggest things, and we always say it at the BAC, is we're finally getting a seat at the table. That was one of the main reasons that this was created, is because when Dodd-Frank rolled out, I wasn't in the industry. I've only been in it since 2012, but there was no say in the brokers. They were just left outside looking through the window. And so that's where the educational part comes through. And you brought up another great point about just the how it varies from state to state, where the funds come from, et cetera. So I use North Carolina always as an example because I live here. We're a part-time legislator, like most states are, just from a revenue standpoint and everything like that. They're not full-time positions for people out there that may not know that. The majority of our representatives hold full-time jobs or small business owners, attorneys, et cetera. So they're not there all the time. But we just got our budget signed off on, I think, yesterday. I don't think it's made it to Governor Stein's desk yet, but you have to factor all these things in when you're going to talk to these folks, because if some of those funds are coming from a state budget and it's not approved yet, the last thing they're going to want to do is have more people have access to this limited pool of funds. So that's another thing for the folks out there that want to explore this, need to consider, is do your research. And we always say it as well, your state representatives are more open to you than you think. They might sometimes take a minute to get back to you. Some of them have legal or legislative assistants. A lot of them are interns or part-time folks as well, but they're in our communities. So get out there and talk to them, and they're open books. So educate them and everything like that, and they'll help you out where they can. They can't wave a wand and say, all right, brokers get DPA, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, I mean, this is, I think, you know, as being a broker, one of the unique abilities of any individual broker is the ability to add a product pretty quickly, right? That you may not have by adding a lender. That's not necessarily the case with HFAs if they're not set up, right? And so that's one thing that I think brings a little frustration with some of the brokers that I've dealt with. It's like, hey, I really want to offer this product. I want a rush to offer it. I have it. And even if it's, for example, you know, we offer right now, currently the HFAs that we offer Florida, Texas, and Ohio. We're working on California soon. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm licensed in Ohio. I want to offer the product tomorrow. I'm like, great, but like, don't forget, you want to be a resource here, right? And there's some education. It's great that we're signed up already, but you can do this tomorrow. But I want to make sure that you have the education. In some states, you're required to take a course, right? Others aren't, right? And that's not for me to say what's the best way or what's not the best way. But if we're starting from scratch, that might not be the case, right? And so it might take a little longer, and it might be something that, hey, we get ready to release, you know, next year, and it's something that you could, you know, another you know, arrow you can have in your quiver for the following year to offer. And I mean, something that you said about having a seat at the table. I mean, the whole point of all the work that we're doing, right, is to have an equal playing field from a competition level, right? So that seat the seat at the table is just that. The other part of that is you need to have access to the same products, right? So that there's no competitive disadvantage. And all that is set is so that every broker individually, an originator, can be a resource to the consumer, because I think that's what, besides the reason, one of the biggest things about choice, right, and being able to present that to the consumer is being able to educate them on what's best for them, right? And you know, a lot of places might just go to their local bank and, hey, it's, you know, I'm going to go DPA because it's free money, right? And maybe you being able to have that product and not just say no because you don't have it opens the eye to that consumer that, hey, this might not make sense to me because I'm a veteran and I'm going to have to pay this debt eventually. And it's a $50,000 debt that doesn't make sense for me to carry whatsoever, right? And it affects me getting a refinance down the road and all these other things, right? And so it just depends. But the loan officer at the bank's not going to sell them that because all they do all day is sell down payment assistance, right? And that's what gets them through the door. And so having the access improves that resource, right? And then the other thing that you mentioned that I wanted to add was, wow, just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
All good, bro.
Well, I'll circle back to it once I remember. But it's you know, again, I can't stress from a state advocacy level how important it is to get involved, because that's where this all starts. And I just remembered what it was. Some states do have the ability to do TPO, right? But they only allow it through a certain conduit, right? Like in some southern states, it's a local bank, right? And that presents an issue because that bank might not want to approve you, right? Or add you, or you might not want to work with them, right? In Texas recently, we joined just to expand access, right? Because they only had a couple of lenders, and you know, there's a recognition that if we have a little bit more, we'll be able to hit a broader base of brokers for a variety of reasons. And so, you know, that's something that we're also looking at, right? Just because, you know, some states are like, hey, I'm already doing TPO, I'm good, and I'm good with this partner that I've had for 30 years, and the conversation is, that's great, but that might not be the best thing for the consumers of the state, right? And so, you know, there's different layers and conversations that are very specific to every state and HFA.
Yeah, and I just want to circle back to one point for the loan officers out there that are still in the trenches. It is so important to learn these products. I know the Cliff Note version of my DPA. Only reason I only know the Cliff Note version is because I don't have access to it, and there's enough to learn with our day-to-day lending. But it is very important, if you get access to these products or want to access them, to learn them, because it is not always the best deal out there. A lot of times they'll go online and find information, or somebody else will tell them something that's not 100% accurate. Like Christian, you said free money. Most of them, you don't repay it monthly, but it takes a while for it to get forgiven. Some of them I think are like 10 years, and it's like a step down. They forgive like 20% each year. I always love using real world examples. I sent a client to go check it out with a friend of mine. He's like, well, I forgot to tell you, I want to flip this to an investment property in a year and a half or so. I was like, well, you can't do that with them. You have to pay back the down payment assistance as soon as you change the occupancy. It's like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'll borrow against my 401k or something, and then I'll pay myself back. So it's not a one size fits all box. They're great programs, but you need to learn, because what if I send him someone that didn't explain that, and he comes back a year and a half later, it's like, all right, I'm ready to buy my next house. I'm not eligible for DPA anymore because I'm not a first time home buyer. It's like, okay, well, you're going to pay back the $15,000 you just got. Yeah. So
when I originated, I lost a VA refi for that reason, right? The guy, he had no idea that, like, with the down payment assistance, it affected the ability to do an IRRRL, right? That's a problem, right? And so at the time, obviously this was now years ago, because I don't actively originate like I used to, but it's something that having the information, and I think as brokers, as loan originators, I think just naturally in the space, we hope to be the first person that a consumer talks to, but a lot of the times we're not. And we're a lot of the times having chance to contradict something that was wrong, that was said, to be able to take over that prime position for the consumer and give them the information they deserve, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation in this industry. A lot of it is not intentionally. It's just sometimes lack of resources, or, someone doing one thing. I mean, I think any of us that do VA have had the kind of jaw-dropping, experience when you hear of a 60-year-old veteran that has never done a VA loan because they didn't know they were available, right? Yep. And they're on their 7th conventional loan, and all the savings they've missed, right, in their home buying career. So, I mean, there's a lot of things like that, and having information and having that resource capability is great. I mean, that's one of the reasons, why we also, and this is a plug for one of my products, our in-house down payment assistance, which is an FHA based one. We have that not because we think, any broker or originator is going to be able to, go scorched earth and offer down payment assistance to every one of their consumers. It's, if you're going to say that you have DPA, but they all have income limits, we want to have a product that doesn't have income limits, right? That has lower FICO floors, that doesn't have DTI requirements, so that you can pivot into this program if you need to. And if you have those hard conversations with a borrower that needs the down payment assistance, you can potentially effectively still offer that with a different product, right? And so that's the reason why that product is there, because we want to be able to continue to add to that resource that our broker partners have, because that's what's so important, right? You don't want to be shifting the financial vehicle of your borrower every 3 weeks as he's into contract, or every week as he's into contract. That's a pretty painful process for everybody involved.
Yeah, for sure. It's just learning your craft and everything. And another reason these DPA programs can be so protective of who they allow in there is you're adding a layer of risk. You can speak more intelligently than I can probably on this, Christian, because you're at the lender level, but they'll turn off lenders if there's high default rate or they're putting crappy loans through, because it'll destroy the program at the end of the day, is what I was told off the record. Is like, we audit your work. It has to be quality, because it's a second that's not repayable in most cases, and constant default is going to lead to a lot more issues. So that's also another reason why companies are hesitant to open it up to everybody, because we all know crappy loan officers, loan originators, mortgage companies in the industry that just bend the rules and do whatever they can to get a sale, especially in today's market. And that's one thing that they're definitely going to be protecting themselves from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the mortgage business, there's always a risk layer with defaults and things like that, early payment defaults. But, I think this from the state HFA perspective, one, they want to be a vehicle to home ownership, but they also don't want to burden the residents of their state with financing that they can't qualify for, right? So, because then you're the vehicle for financial ruin potentially. Yeah. But and the quality, the reality is, like we've all been in this business hopefully for a while to know that like things get through sometimes, right? With volume, things happen, and HFAs really focus on quality because they don't have tons and tons of staff to review everything, right? So they're merely kind of guiding the water through a pathway, and so they're hoping that like the way they kind of measure the water quality is through some macro ways, to put it kind of in an easy way to understand. And so you got to meet certain parameters, right? But I don't think there's not a reason to, that's not necessarily an obstacle. And I think any obstacle can be overcome with education really in this. And like, for everybody listening, I don't want from, this webinar, I don't want you to take that out of this webinar that, getting TPO and HFA is harder or is too restrictive, right? That's not necessarily the case. Is we need to provide more information to the local states so that they can be more informed, and then take that information with them. And I'll tell you something, because this is something that happens with legislation specifically in the states all the time, right? You want to let other states copy other states' state legislations and policies all the time, especially stuff that works and works well. So as you get states that start doing well with TPO and DPA, other states are looking left and right. They had a conference. The state HFA conference was like 2 weeks ago in DC, right? They all discuss this stuff, right? One of the reasons why we've been able to add the states that we've added is literally through a word of mouth between the HFAs that said, hey, we've liked the work you've done over here. Come do it over here, right? And when we talk to other states, we point to the states that we're successful in and tell them to talk to those states, right? As you're talking to your state legislators or advocates in those agencies or whatever it may be, as we create more noise and more education in this, it gets much easier for other states to pop up just naturally ahead of any work that we're doing, because they want to be on the right side of this. No one likes to be wrong in politics. And so, they want to be on the right side of this. Currently right now, home affordability is a fun word right now that has some popularity in current events. The reality is home affordability at a federal level is really hard to do. And if you're reading in those articles, they kind of all state that, right? It's really hard to lead from the federal level. At state level, you can do a lot more with different programs and direct access to consumers. And so, and I can tell you from my political background in state politics, every legislator loves the word home affordability, just like they love jobs, just like they love education, right? Those are words that most people can get behind really, really easily, right? And so, using that to provide education and get the tide to start moving in your state is I think a really big deal and a good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. To wrap it up for anybody that's watching this now or watches the replay, it's got to be boots on the ground and local level. If you're not involved with us at the BAC, please reach out to us, send us a message. We'll connect you with state captain in that area. We'll just provide you help, even if there's not a state captain in that area. I mean, if you want to get more involved with this, we'd absolutely love you to join the BAC. It's a volunteer position. It is very rewarding. I've been doing it, I think, for 4 years now, maybe longer. I can't keep track. I just keep coming back because at the end of the day, you are helping consumers in your industry as well as colleagues in your industry by getting access to more products like this, fixing trigger leads, for example. It's a great organization to be a part of, and we can point you in the right direction. I always say this, if you've heard me talk on these before, I got involved at my local level with local organizations. They didn't have any brokers in it. Not saying that that's the case everywhere, but they wanted more brokers in there, and they're supporting us right now. We talk to them, we talk to their local lobbyists. I've talked to a local lobbyist. That's how I got Christian and I in touch with the right people at NCHFA. So it's honestly, it's networking in your community. And then you'll become more known as that go-to person where you get added to local legislative committees like I am now in NC. So just get out there, reach out to us. We're happy to help. There is a question, Christian. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can get to it. Sorry.
It says, is TSHAC an HFA?
Yeah, I mean, they're so it's interesting how every state's different, right? So Texas is considered kind of an HFA in kind of function, but they're not sponsored by the state, right? They're a TSHAC stands for you're going to put me on a spot here, Mark. Texas State Housing Affordability Corporation, if I'm not wrong, right? So that's a corporation, but they do have ties to the state, right? I mean, Florida Housing, which is the HFA for Florida, is called Florida Housing Finance Corporation, but it's 100% sponsored by the state, right? It's a state agency. So TSHAC's a little bit different. They're kind of they're a little bit separate, but they do deal with federal and state subsidies, right? So they're kind of, if you deal with those things and have involvement and follow some state direction, you're kind of under that umbrella.
Yeah, it is Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation. You're correct.
I added an itty in there by mistake.
You're good.
But yeah, so Texas has two. They have that one, and then they have TDHCA, which is the Texas Department of Department of Home Affordability, maybe, or Housing Agency, which is the true state HFA there.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
I didn't see any others come through. We can wrap it up. And like I said, drop the questions here. Our wonderful team at the back will get back to you. Might be me, might be Christian, might be somebody else.
Guys, I'll just say too, I'm very transparent and open. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My information is widely available. If you get someone at hold of the bag, they'll get you my information, and I'm happy to discuss anything or any ideas you have or any access to any product. That's what we're here to do.
I can confirm that in real time. He is a wealth of knowledge and super helpful. Huge benefit to us. Well, for those out there watching, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Christian, for taking time out of your busy day. And if you watch the replay, let us know how we can help you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.